We got some breaking news as Jusuf Nurkic is going to be staying with this Suns team as the starting center, regardless of the trade rumors, regardless of what you saw throughout the offseason. He will be retaining, and Plumlee is the backup. We'll be going over this Suns center room, and could Matt Ishbia and James Jones be looking to make more moves ahead of this offseason as well? We'll be getting into all of that on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Velez with my co-host CJ Pierre. Welcome back to another episode here on Suns Digest. Before we dive in, before we get into the news though, CJ, 78% of you guys who watch our videos are not subscribed, and that number has been dwindling down. We really, really appreciate you guys trying to get us closer to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around this Suns team, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned on the daily content here that is rapidly coming throughout the offseason. But CJ, let's get into the first topic at hand. Without further ado, Nurkic is staying, and that is right. From recent reports here, we can see from Gambo, someone saying to trade Nurkic for Kessler, try to get that deal done with the Utah Jazz, but he says he does not expect the Suns to trade Nurk, as he should do well in Bud's offense, and he will be back. Where Gambo also gets a nice little tweet saying that he's always right and doesn't understand why anybody doubts him. CJ, are you doubting Gambo? Are you doubting? Are you with the haters? Are you siding with Gambo? Are you picking that the Suns are gonna bring back Nurkic and rock out with the guy at center?
I never go against Gambo. Okay, when he speaks, I listen. He was one of the first to just kind of squash the KD trade stuff. I'm siding with Gambo on this one, and I think it makes a lot of sense. When you think about it, particularly after what the Suns did in the draft, feel like that kind of just everything that you need to know. The fact that the Suns made picks, made moves to bring in young talent, that kind of told you that they're not looking to package any of these picks to trade away a guy like Jusuf Nurkic. I feel like it just makes sense to bring Nurkic back. And I feel like he is a veteran guy. He's a guy who's been around the league for a while. Last season was his first season with the Suns, first time playing with Beal, Booker, and Durant. Get another year under his belt, get him in Mike Budenholzer's system. Budenholzer loves big men who can excel on the offensive end. Nurkic has a lot of moves in the post. He's not Brook Lopez. He's not a guy who's going to really stretch the floor and step out in 3-point land all that much, but he's can probably improve in some pick and roll situations if he's able to, get some more familiarity with the guys who are going to be handling the ball. We'll see what the Suns end up, doing if they make any more moves to come and add to this roster, particularly on the perimeter. But in fact, I agree with Gambo. Nurkic is going to do much better in this particular offensive system. He's not a defensive stalwart. He's not a guy who's going to just sit back and protect the rim. He's a guy who needs to be, in some action. He has have the ball in his hands. He's also a solid passer, and I really think that the Suns weren't able to take advantage of that, and that was kind of evident based on the lineups that they were throwing out there in the playoffs against the Timberwolves. So get Nurkic back, get him in camp with these guys, get Budenholzer, get his fingerprints on it, and I think bringing Nurkic back is the right move, particularly after the Suns did what they did in the draft.
I'm agreeing with you, and I'm siding with Gambo as well, baby. Come on. Nurkic, I think he can kind of unlock himself, maybe look a little bit better in this offense with Budenholzer. Not going to lie, that contract being in the second apron does look appetizing to want to trade out to kind of, lessen this salary a bit. But as we saw with this Phoenix Suns team, they said they don't need that high impact center. They just need a center that can play his role. And if Budenholzer can unlock Nurkic to be that role for this Suns team, to get rebounds, be a solid paint defender, and just finish at the rim with ease, I think that's what the Suns can be happy with seeing. We want to look at Jusuf Nurkic's stats on this season. We can see he averaged around 11 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists on a block and steal per game, so still solid on the defensive side from Nurkic right there. 7 feet, age 29, 50% from the field. Not a great three-point shooter, obviously 24% from the three-point line, but that's not what we're looking for Nurkic to be in this Suns lineup. Now, obviously, with the Suns keeping Nurkic and kind of retaining him and keeping him with this squad, you have to see that the Suns need to have another impact piece from this bench unit to kind of come off at the center position. We already saw that with the impact signing of Mason Plumlee is coming on in a veteran minimum deal. Now, CJ, I kind of detailed and talked about that, but I want to know your thoughts in that as well, because some people are saying that he's not an upgrade over Eubanks. I think he personally is, and I wanted to have your thoughts in scenarios with keeping Nurkic and running with Plumlee.
Well, for the people who think that this isn't an improvement over Eubanks, I think they're probably just looking at like, the two players individually in terms of what Eubanks can bring to the table and what Plumlee can bring to the table. Not in necessarily terms of what the Suns are looking for and what role they want Plumlee to fill. Nurkic isn't necessarily a great defender. He's not necessarily a great rim protector. Eubanks is even worse on the defensive side of the ball. He's one of the worst defensive big men in the league. Mason Plumlee, on the other hand, is one of the better defensive big men in the league. He's definitely more of a rim protector, someone who's a lot better in post-up scenarios on the defensive end, a lot better defending the pick and roll. There's so many avenues in terms of where Plumlee is better than Eubanks and where the Suns need him to be. Do they need Plumlee to be a better offensive player, a better scorer around the rim? Not necessarily. Plumlee's good enough in terms of what he can do in pick and rolls. He's a good pick and roll dive guy to the basket, good with his hands, can get to the rim, and he'll probably end up getting fouled. Is he the greatest most reliable free throw shooter? Maybe not. Eubanks is probably better in that particular regard, but I mean, he's good enough. He's going to draw fouls on those reserve bigs. He's going to be a spark plug off the bench. He's going to bring in some energy, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what the Suns need. That's what they were missing. That's why Eubanks got played off the floor in Game 4 in that playoff series against the Timberwolves. So, is Eubanks a better player than Plumlee? Like, guy for guy, do I want to pick Eubanks in a game of 21 on the court? Maybe. But in terms of what the Suns need in their offense, I'll take Plumlee all day, every day.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly, CJ. I think Plumlee fits that need that the Suns need as that rim protector, as that backup center, especially in that interior force with Nurkic not being, that big of a bolster defender as well in the starting lineup. I know that there were some guys that we personally liked a little bit more, some guys like Andre Drummond, but not necessarily, I don't think that Mason Plumlee is the worst possible signing that they could have got at the backup center. And looking at the contract that Eubanks got as well, 2 years, $10 million, Suns could not afford that, and they were not going to give him that type of money to be there. So I'm happy that they kind of avoided that little situation there as well. But as we all know, Suns obviously have these players locked up for a long time. And now we kind of can look at this roster construction with knowing that Nurkic is going to be here the long term and they have Plumlee as the backup center. Durant, Beal, Booker, Nurkic, Allen, O'Neal, Little, Bol, Roddy, and Plumlee being those 10 guys locked up. Now, I know you just released a video on Colin Gillespie. He's on a two-way contract. Most likely, Oso Ighodaro will also be on there. And the Suns also did pick up a guy in Tyrese Samuel on an Exhibit 10 day, so he could possibly fill out that last two-way spot. The Suns do have two guys on player options that possibly could come back. We've seen Eubanks and Gordon obviously leave, but Damian Lee and Josh Okogie, the Suns are still looking to work to remain and keep contacts in them and try to bring them back. So CJ, looking with the rest of free agency, that kind of leaves us with 5 roster spots at this open right now. Two being kind of taken if Lee and Okogie come back, so maybe 3 realistically to go. What are your thoughts? What do you really see for the Suns looking out and for the rest of free agency?
Well, again, there's also the Ryan Dunn, the
Oh
rookie, who's
yes,
probably going to take up one of
excuse me as
those
well.
roster
Yes.
spots. Yep. So there's probably going to be 2 spots that the Suns are going to look to play with. Now, there's 2 different minds of that. They could keep one of those spots open as they head into the season and wait for something to happen where maybe some guy gets bought out and they end up trying to make a move that way. Or they could just try and fill those 2 roles up and do something there. There's also the Nasir Little of it all. I don't necessarily know how well he fits into this roster currently. I don't know where he necessarily fits into this rotation. Um, I I could see he could still be someone who ends up getting moved. Maybe it's a salary dump to a team with some cap space. Maybe he gets packaged together, in some kind of 3-team trade involving some other teams that the Suns just kind of throw in so they can, hey, we got a guy that we might help you guys if you need some salary flexibility. So there's an option there. But I think the number one goal, and we've talked about it, you and I have talked about it, people have been talking about it. Point guard, point guard, point guard. That is where the Suns are going to probably be looking next. There was rumors about Chris Paul. He signed with the San Antonio Spurs. There's been talks about, other guys who are in free agency, Tyus Jones, trying to make moves in that regard. That's not where the Suns are going to be looking. They're the second apron. It's kind of limited them to the veteran guys, the guys who are going to be signing veteran minimum deals. And I actually think it's smart for them to kind of wait and just kind of see how things play out, see where all these other guys go. Because at the end of the day, the guys who maybe they're targeting, like a Chris Dunn, Kyle Lowry, Monte Morris, perhaps, they're going to try and look at the landscape and see where they can fit. Where are they going to find playing time? Who's going to give them the most money? And really try and determine what they want, what's going to be best for them. Looking at Chris Dunn, who's probably the number one guy I would target if I was the Phoenix Suns, he's probably going to be offered bigger deals than what the Suns can offer. But the Suns might be able to offer him a starting point guard job that other teams may not be able to. He's not going to start at point guard for the Detroit Pistons. He's not going to start at point guard for even the Utah Jazz, the team that he just came from. He's maybe has a chance to be a contributing factor with the Phoenix Suns, playing 30 minutes a game. That's a likely possibility for him if he comes to Phoenix. So the Suns better off just kind of looking and seeing how the landscape shapes. They obviously don't have the money to be throwing around and signing guys like the Philadelphia 76ers. They're just throwing away cash like it doesn't matter. The Suns, on the other hand, they got to be more calculated. They got to be more reserved, spend their money, add to the money wisely. They've already spent the money. Look at the big three and how much they're making, but there's still opportunities for them to continue to steadily improve the roster. Also, be on the lookout for them to also add maybe an additional shooting wing. Really don't feel like they've replaced Eric Gordon necessarily, who was a contributor averaging double digits last season. So that's where the guys like a Reggie Bullock comes into play. I mentioned Kelly Oubre, but he ended up resigning with the 76ers as well. So I feel I could also see them maybe looking for some kind of shooting guard type. Look at Seth Curry, see if that's a possibility that he might do a veteran minimum situation with Phoenix. Definitely still some guys that are going to be out there once all this money, these big money contracts, long term deals get all sewn up, and the veteran minimum guys start going into it. Buyout candidates are on the table. Russell Westbrook might get traded and get bought out again, which a repeat. Do we want to see that? KD Westbrook reunion in Phoenix? I don't know, but there's a lot that still needs to happen. Free agency is just getting started. We're going to see a lot going on, and Phoenix is going to have a say in what happens.
I agree with you. I think that, like you said, the veteran minimum guys from Chris Dunn to Monte Morris to Kyle Lowry, they got to wait out and listen to these offers, try to figure out where these players are going, where these bigger names like the Paul Georges and the Clay and the DeMar DeRozans kind of figure out their homes, to kind of figure out what role they can kind of impact. We already saw, like you mentioned, a guy in Eric Gordon take a vet minimum deal leaving the Suns. We've also seen a guy in DeLon Wright take a vet minimum deal as a guard playing behind the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think necessarily that would have been the best fit for the Phoenix Suns, but some guys like that have already taken those deals. So who knows? The Suns could strike. We could finish recording this video and boom, Woj Shams drops a bomb for us and we could be freaking out. But as you guys know, as we've kind of talked about and broken down, this Suns team is strapped to that salary cap in the second apron. Nazir Little, Ryan Dunn, Damian Lee, most likely coming back on that player option. Royce O'Neal, David Roddy, and the starting five obviously going to be here. Bull is back, looking to bring back Josh Okogie and Mason Plumlee, now committed. Suns looking to have an impactful roster, looking to be a contending team, looking to be a powerhouse in this Western Conference. And with teams like the Thunder and the Mavericks already making moves atop of this Western Conference, this Suns team is going to have to make some ones around the edges to kind of remain and be at the top. I want to let you guys know, shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Suns Digest, where CJ and I broke down the news of Jusuf Nurkic staying and what that ultimately means for the Phoenix Suns in the wait, pursuit, and the rest of free agency. We appreciate your guys' support. Check out CJ's video that he did also earlier today, breaking down the signing of Colin Gillespie. You definitely don't want to miss that out. ASAP got that out right away. Shout out to my boy. Once again, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around this team, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure to stay tuned as there's going to be news coming rampant throughout the next couple weeks. CJ and I are going to be on top of it. Once again, I'm your host, Bruce Veliz, signing off with my co-host, CJ Pierre. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns.